How's everybody doing, and welcome to the fish room. Today's video I want to do an update on our Guppy crossbreeding. So as you guys know, if you follow the page, a few months ago I put some fancy female guppies together with a delta male guppy. So the purpose of this was to help improve the fins in the males and try to still create that nice color in the males and especially the females. Trying to get really nice females and nice males with nice squared off tails. Kind of starting from scratch without buying someone else's strain and working with it. I wanted to do some crosses and see what I can produce. So let's go ahead, we'll look at the adults, and then we're gonna look at a fry tank. Now they are starting to become adults, and I'm ready to start separating them to males, females, and pick my next generation of breeders. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So in this tank here is a 10 gallon where I'm breeding the guppies. It's kind of hard to see. I have some writing on the front of the tank. Really helps me stay organized, but it's hard to kind of film sometimes. So you can see a little bit of the guppies. There's the male right under my finger there. He's kind of turned sideways. And some of these females, the females are getting nice and big. They're getting a little bit older, so they're not going to be breeding for a whole lot longer. But you can tell, like in the one in the bottom left corner, really nice colors. They almost have like a half black on some of them, and the others are just like a cobra with a lot of color in their top fin and in their back fin. So now that you kind of see these guys, definitely go check out part 1 and part 2 of this project. The first video got a lot of views, hit 10,000, I mean, which is a lot for me. It took a few months, but people are definitely interested in watching this stuff, so I want to stay updated. I want to do more parts of this video. And they're still breeding. We have some fry in there, but I've been catching them out periodically. But let's go ahead and look at the tank. It's getting a little cloudy with a lot of plecos feeding in it. But let's see where the fry are, how big they are, and what they're looking like. Here's a 20 long that I've been growing the fry out. I have probably 50 or 60 plecos in here also. So this tank gets tons of food every day, and all the fish are growing well and doing good, but it's super cloudy, so we're not going to take a long look at this tank. But we'll go a little bit closer, look at some of the fry, and I'm going to go ahead, catch them out today and separate them, so we'll see them in a container and really can get a close look at these guys. But while we still have the fish in the tank, we can probably spot out some nice males. I haven't done any calls, so I'm not really sure yet if there's any fish in here that I'll have to pull out. But like that male coming in the front view is looking really good. Has tons of color, and I couldn't be happier with it. And the tails are looking very nice. From what I was getting from those females, the tails were like all jagged up. They were like kind of like a fire tail. There was a bunch of little pieces splitting out here and there, but you guys know what I mean. Whenever a guppy's tail just doesn't really grow consistent, it's not rounded and short, it's not long and squared off. It's kind of somewhere in between, but like this fish right here, things like that, he's just looking really nice. I'm not sure if I'm getting him in the shot, but some of these males are looking really good. So I'll probably go ahead and pull a trio from here and continue to breed these guys, get like an F2. But without fighting the glare and the cloudy water, let's catch these fish out and let's start separating them and take a closer look. Alright, so they were pretty easy to catch. Very important in my opinion whenever you're breeding guppies and you're trying to, if you have multiple tanks and you're trying to stay somewhat organized. These fish here are of breeding age, but they have not started to have babies. So if you can go ahead and catch those fish out, sort them, even before this stage, it's going to be a lot easier because you don't have any fry in the tank. I have some younger babies in here, and I have some guys that are just maturing that are adults. So I caught these within like 20 seconds. Once you get fry in there, to catch all the babies out, to have an empty tank of fish where you can start over, it's much more time consuming whenever the babies you grew out started to have babies and you have multiple different sizes and ages. So here I have like 2 sizes of fish. Some fry are probably 2.5 months old, and some are around 3 or 4 months old, give or take. But just looking at the size of the fish, that's what I'm gonna say. And as you see, I'll point out some things. I have exactly a good mix in my opinion. So I got some randomness of like some reds in here, but they have the delta tail like the father. I have some fancy guppies that are more of the cobra pattern, especially some of these are really nice. We'll take a closer look and we'll pick out some future breeders out of here. but they look just like the females, but they have the male's tail. And I actually got some purples out too on the top right up here. That's just like the father, so that's a purple delta. Whenever you crossbreed fish, it doesn't really matter what the fish look like, it's what their genetics are. So whenever you're breeding a fish that you just bought from the store and you mix it, you really don't know what you're going to get. But in this situation, I've been breeding those females for probably around 2 years, continuing to breed fancy guppy to fancy guppy of my own strains with the nicest male and the nicest female, trying to create a just colorful fish. But over time, the male's tail would start to take weird shapes, and it wasn't consistent. So it came to that point where I had to try to improve the line. The color was coming along, but even my nicest males that I was picking from, they weren't as good as I really wanted. So this is why I did the cross. And those purple deltas I purchased from someone else, but I've been breeding them true for about a year now. So both those fish were their own strain, and I crossed them. It wasn't a muck guppy that bred with different guppies every generation, and each time their genetics got more and more complex. In this situation here, I knew I was crossing my fancy guppies to a purple delta, and that was pretty much it. I wanted to improve my fancies, but they were relatively consistent in the things that I was looking for. So this was a pretty good result. Let's go ahead and point out some fish. I know it's going to be hard to see here. Hopefully you guys don't mind me just talking while I'm showing the container here. But we'll go a little bit closer and we'll lose some shots of the others. We'll kind of talk about what comes in. So whenever I'm selecting from here, I want to get a colorful male guppy with a squared off tail. I know I have at least one in here that really caught my eye. And then I want to give him 1 to 2 females with good body shape and have some of the cobra pattern. I don't want anything with a weird back, and I don't want any purple in the tail. Like this one here is pretty standard. That's like a purple delta. I want to breed something, in my opinion, what I'm going for. Let's see if I can spot a guppy in here while we're talking. I'm gonna have to keep looking for the females that I want, but there's a female up here. They all kind of get mixed in, so it's hard to point them out. I want something with more color in the tail, probably like this one right here. So probably that female right there I'll catch out. I want to have good body shape. I want to have a little bit of color in the tail, and if I have color coming up their spine, that's also something I've been breeding for. So if I have some color coming up into the top fin and in their back, definitely want to breed something like that. And as for the male, this guy keeps catching my eye. He's got nice color and really good tail in my opinion. So here the color is less important than the tail for me. I want to find something with multiple colors, but I really want to focus on that squared off tail. Because I have a few males in here, like this guy over here in the back corner. Looks really nice and he has tons of color in him, but his tail's kind of going back to what I've been trying to get away from. Just not really squared off that well, so that's exactly what this project is trying to improve. So for me to create fish with better tails and then select one with not as nice of a tail with better color is kind of working backwards. So if I were to let these guys stay in the tank and just let them colony breed, it's going to defeat the whole purpose of the project. But we're going to go through, I'm going to select 2 trios, one for a 10-gallon tank that I cleared some space out, and then I'm going to put a trio back into the tank they came from, just to make sure if they don't do well with crossing different tank water, which they're all pretty similar. If anything were to go wrong, I have at least 2 lines going, and if they both breed, I can see if they produce something similar, what's going on. But I think I'm going to catch this guy out here and a nice female for him, maybe 2. Put them in a 10-gallon tank, I'll show you that. Then we'll put another trio in the bottom 20-gallon tank where they came from, and then the rest I'm going to separate into males and females. Alright, so I picked out 2 of my favorite trios out of this. Some fish I like the look of initially better than others, but I really want to go close, look at the fins. So I'll show you those pairs after this, or the trio. But now I'm going to sort into males and females. If anything's swimming kind of funny, this is where I'll make any calls. But overall, they're looking pretty good. Whenever you're separating the males and females, things to look for, which is kind of basic, but whenever they're at a medium size, it's kind of hard to tell. Because there's a few males in here that at first glance, they look like a female. For example, this one here looks like a really nice female, but it's actually a young male. The way you can tell this is the females are going to have an egg spot. So for example, this one right here, underneath, it's going to be hard to catch this, but they're going to have a dark spot right at their bottom vent. So there's a young female right there. The males, even if it looks like a female, could just be young and not fully developed. So you're looking for a straight fin or like a pointed fin. That's an obvious male. If you look at the vent underneath, that's a male right here. Here's a female. She's older. It's easy. There's another purple delta male. But this one right here, that's a male. So you can see how the fin is not completely straight, but it's kind of like a triangle. But at first glance, it's hard to tell because he's not have that big fin yet. Looks like a really colorful female, but that is definitely a young male. So that's all you're looking for. You may have fish with a rounded fin, but they don't have that egg spot. That's just a young male. So something like maybe that fish there, when I'm not on camera, that could be a male. So I'll have to look closer. It looks like she might have an egg spot, but things to look for, even when you catch them in a net to make that final decision. Like this one's a male here. You can see that triangle fin, it's not fully developed, but there's 0 egg spot on that fish facing us right here. There's a young male. So just to kind of clarify that, anyone trying to learn how to breed guppies and they're kind of watching this, I want to be a little bit educational. So the females are going to have an egg spot, the males will not. The more developed ones will have the round fin or the pointed fin for the males and females. But I'm going to go ahead and separate these into males and females, put them into this bottom sail tank, which I have all female guppies. Some are older, some are younger, if it'll focus in for us, but got a whole bunch of these guys. If you ever want like a mutt tank or like a certain color fish, but you want to work on a project, let me know. You can check out my website, biancosfish.com. It's definitely getting warmer now. I shipped some fish out today, and I think we'll be back in that season where I can ship until next winter. So let me know if you're looking for some guppies. I have some pure strains, and I have some just assorted males and female tanks. If you want to just stock up a planted tank, let them breed. I got some really nice females and males with a lot of cool genetics, but I will mix them into just a variety of different colors for a selling purpose. So whenever I sell to a pet store, they just want a lot of nice guppies with males and females, kind of assorted. They don't want to have 20 of the same looking fish. They want to get a variety. So this is the male tank, and all these fish are really nice, but you can't breed them all. You gotta sell some of them. So whether it has something like this, has like an orange tail that came from my yellow half blacks, and it's super hard to get a good shot of these guys, but that's a beautiful fish. Just for this purpose, I'd have to start a whole new project if I wanted to try to breed that fish and breed it true. So there's a lot of cool different ways you can breed guppies and a lot of different outcomes you can get. But let's go ahead back to these 2 trios I just pulled. The one is already back in that bottom tank. It's kind of cloudy. We probably won't see them. I picked out one of the more red and orange ones with a squared off tail because I think I got some cool colors, and it probably came more from the purple delta male genetics. So he should produce more squared off tails. And then I picked another one, which we'll take a look at now. So here's the 3 I decided to go with. That initial male that I pointed out is the same one. And then I picked 2 different females. One is a little bit more yellow, one is more like bluish to her. The yellow one has more color coming up her back, which I like that. And the other one, I like the spotting and the color. They're still growing, they're not done growing. So hopefully that color gets more defined like their parents. Definitely check out the part 1 and part 2 of this video, because those adult fish just look really nice, especially for guppies that I originally bought from the pet store and I've just been working on. I'm not sure if this will help or hurt, but I'll put a flashlight on, maybe with some more focusing. Maybe not, might just make it more glary. But definitely excited to breed these. One of my favorite things about the guppies is how you can do this. You can get multiple generations, you can work with the fish over time, and kind of create your own strain, which is really cool in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and let these guys go. Wanted to update you, and let's go ahead and let them out. Not going to make this video too much longer, but really was excited to kind of take a close look at these guys. And in person, this male guppy is just like beautiful. He's got a nice cobra or almost like a snakeskin pattern on his body, and then his tail kind of breaks up. So really happy with the way it's turned out, and there's always room for improvement. So that's what I'm going to do here. I release these guys in the tank. I already used my marker and I marked it down here. So I got my F2 crossbreeding project and I'll mark the date. So doing stuff like that's really important to kind of stay up on your tanks. Know how long it's been, know where stuff came from. If 3 months from now I have a ton of babies in this tank and I forget where they came from, I'll know it's my crossbreeding project, which is what I did in the video, so I know that's what I kind of focused on. Other projects that if I crossbreed, I'll label as so, but typically I'm always line breeding. But thanks for watching, guys. Let's go ahead and let these guys go. And as for the breeding setup here, while I have you guys, pretty similar to what I always do. I have a sponge filter running the tank. It's one of my matting filters. Got some hanging or floating matted plants in my acrylic yarn. So stuff like this, I'll go about a 50%, maybe a 40% water change once a week. Keep an eye on them. As soon as you spot fry, you can catch them out, move them to another tank, or at least go ahead and label the tank whenever the babies are born. But hope this was kind of interesting to kind of wrap up on the series, let you know what the babies turned out to look like. And just for example, I figure while I have you guys, I have another tank that I'm breeding now from the original Fancy Guppy project. I had a few different tanks at the time that I was breeding of my Fancy Guppies, but I wanted to show you some of these males here because they're really nice color, but their tails, just so you can know what I was talking about, they're not sick, they don't have fin rot, but that's kind of what I was trying to explain before. You see the pattern in these tails. Some are a little bit squared off, but they produce a lot of fish with just kind of tethered tails. But they just have the nicest color. So in person, it's really hard to capture this color on camera, but like that one in the middle of the screen, that kind of bluish one, very nice color. If he had a squared off tail, I mean, it'd be like my favorite fish. So just so you can see, breeding guppies, there's a lot of variety, and you got to keep up on the line, or over time you're going to get a lot of kind of muck guppies and not as pretty over time. So stay up on your breeding. Let me know what your favorite color guppy is. Check out the website, biancosfish.com. And as always, thank you for watching. If you have not yet, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Like the video if you liked it. Leave me a comment and check out project parts 1 and 2 to the crossbreeding series. Thank you all and have a good one.